Okay, so you want to throw a destination wedding. Fly your closest people somewhere beautiful, say your vows on a beach, or a cliffside, or a vineyard. And skip the whole stuffy ballroom situation entirely. Sounds romantic. Sounds simple. Here's the thing though. Destination weddings are one of the most financially misunderstood events in the entire wedding industry. And the way the money actually moves is nothing like people expect walking in. Let's start with the number everyone's curious about. The average domestic wedding in the US runs somewhere around $35,000. A destination wedding? You'd think it'd be more expensive because, well, you're flying everyone somewhere exotic. But here's the twist. For the couple themselves, a destination wedding is often cheaper. Look, a lot of destination weddings, especially at all-inclusive resorts, land somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 total. That's genuinely less than a lot of hometown weddings. So why does that happen? Because you're not paying separately for a venue, catering, a DJ, florals, and a planner. A lot of that gets bundled into one resort package, and the resort is desperate for your business, so they'll often throw in serious discounts to lock you in. But, and here's where it gets interesting, the math flips completely depending on whose wallet you're looking at. Because while the couple might save money, the guests are the ones absorbing a massive chunk of the real cost. Here's a stat that surprises people. The average guest attending a destination wedding spends somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 just to show up. Flights, hotel, meals outside the resort package, a gift, maybe a rental car. So if you invite 80 guests, you haven't just planned a wedding. You've indirectly asked your friends and family to collectively spend somewhere around $100,000 just to watch you get married. That number tends to make people a little uncomfortable once they actually sit with it. So how does the money flow into the resort itself? This is where it gets genuinely clever from a business standpoint. Resorts that specialize in destination weddings figured out something brilliant a while ago. A wedding isn't just one transaction. It's an anchor event that pulls in an entire cluster of paying guests for 3 to 7 days straight. Think about it. You're not just paying the resort for your own room. You've got 20, 40, sometimes 80 guests all booking rooms at that same resort for multiple nights. Suddenly, one wedding is generating hundreds of room nights of revenue, plus food, plus drinks, plus spa treatments, plus excursions. A single destination wedding can generate more total resort revenue than 15 or 20 individual vacationers booking on their own. That's exactly why resorts will slash the price of the wedding package itself, sometimes almost giving it away for free at certain room night thresholds. Here's the thing. The wedding is basically a loss leader. The real profit isn't the ceremony fee or the reception dinner. The real profit is capturing an entire guest list's worth of hotel bookings, restaurant tabs, and bar tabs for the better part of a week. Some resorts will comp the entire wedding, free venue, free ceremony setup, sometimes even a free night for the couple, as long as you hit a minimum of, say, 20 or 25 booked rooms. That's the whole game. Get the wedding cheap enough that the couple says yes, and let the guest spending do the real work. Now let's talk about the vendors, because this is where things get sneaky in a different way. A lot of destination wedding locations have what's called a preferred vendor list, meaning if you want an outside florist or photographer or DJ who isn't already on the resort's approved list, you're often hit with what's called a vendor fee, sometimes $500 to $1,500, just for the privilege of letting an outsider onto the property. So even though you think you're avoiding all the local wedding industry markups by going somewhere exotic, you're actually stepping into a slightly different, more controlled ecosystem, where the resort still finds ways to take their cut. Here's another cost that blindsides almost everybody: the legal side. Depending on the country, getting legally married abroad can be shockingly complicated. Mexico, for instance, often requires blood tests and specific residency waiting periods. Some countries require documents to be translated and notarized, sometimes multiple times, sometimes by specific approved translators who, shockingly, charge premium rates because they know you have no other choice. A lot of couples end up doing what's called a symbolic ceremony abroad, and then quietly filing the actual legal paperwork back home at the courthouse, just to dodge the bureaucratic nightmare entirely. Okay, so let's talk about why this whole model actually works despite guests essentially footing an enormous portion of the bill. Because here's the psychological trick baked into the whole destination wedding concept. Guests don't frame it in their head as, I'm being forced to spend $2,000 to attend someone else's event. They frame it as, I'm going on vacation and there happens to be a wedding while I'm there. That reframing is everything. It's the same reason people don't blink at a $500 concert weekend but would be furious paying $500 for a 2-hour dinner. When spending gets wrapped in the language of experience and vacation, people's mental accounting completely changes. And that's also why destination weddings have exploded over the last decade, especially with younger couples. There's been a massive cultural shift away from the traditional 200-guest hometown wedding with a rented ballroom towards smaller, more intimate destination events. Couples would rather have 50 people they actually love on a beach in Tulum than 300 people, including their mom's coworkers, in a hotel conference room back home. Fewer guests, more intense experience, and, this is the sneaky financial benefit, a built-in filter. If flying to Costa Rica costs someone $2,000, the people who show up are the people who genuinely want to be there. Destination weddings accidentally solve the who do we actually have to invite problem that ruins so many traditional wedding budgets. Now, here's where we get into the parts that quietly wreck people's budgets even when they think they've planned everything perfectly. The first killer is currency and exchange rate exposure. If you're booking a resort in a foreign currency a year in advance, and that currency moves against the dollar, your entire wedding budget can shift by thousands of dollars without you doing anything wrong at all. Couples lock in a quote, feel great about the number, and then watch the final bill balloon 8 or 10% purely from exchange rate drift. The second killer is weather risk, and this one's brutal because there's often no insurance safety net unless you specifically buy it. A hurricane, a tropical storm, even just seasonal rain patterns that nobody researched properly can wreck an outdoor ceremony with zero refund path. Wedding insurance exists specifically for this, and it typically costs somewhere between $200 and $600 depending on coverage, and yet a huge number of couples skip it entirely because it feels like an unnecessary expense right up until the day it isn't. The third killer, and honestly the most common one, is underestimating the extra day costs. Most destination weddings aren't a one-day event. They're a 3 to 5 day experience. Welcome dinners, rehearsal dinners, farewell brunches. Each of those additional gatherings, even at a discounted resort rate, adds up fast, sometimes tacking on another $5,000 to $10,000 that never showed up in the couple's original just the wedding budget line. And then there's the guest attrition problem, which nobody plans for financially. Because destination weddings involve real money and real time off work for guests, RSVP rates run dramatically lower than domestic weddings, sometimes 50 to 60% instead of the 85 to 90% you'd expect for a wedding back home. That sounds like it should save money, but here's the catch. A lot of resort wedding packages are priced around a minimum guest or room night guarantee. If your RSVPs come in low, you can actually end up paying a shortfall fee to the resort just to cover the guaranteed minimum you originally committed to. So let's put the real numbers together and see how this actually nets out. Say a couple books a mid-range destination wedding package at $18,000, covering ceremony, reception, and a block of discounted rooms. Add legal paperwork and translation fees, call it $800. Add a vendor fee for an outside photographer, another $1,000. Add 3 extra welcome dinner and farewell brunch events across the trip, roughly $6,000. Add wedding insurance, call it $400. You're already at $26,200 before a single guest has booked a flight. And that's a completely normal, well-planned destination wedding, not an extravagant one. Meanwhile, the guests are collectively spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000 to $100,000 combined, depending on headcount, all so they can watch 2 people say "I do" on a beach for maybe 20 minutes. So, who actually wins financially in all of this? Honestly, the resort wins the most, by a wide margin, because they're capturing multi-day spending from dozens of people who'd otherwise never have booked that property at all. The couple wins on relative cost compared to a big hometown wedding, but only if they're disciplined about add-ons and extra days. And the guests, frankly, are subsidizing the entire experience, even though it's disguised as a vacation they chose to take. But here's the thing that makes this whole model genuinely brilliant instead of just exploitative. Everyone kind of knows the deal, and everyone still says yes. The couple gets a beautiful, intimate, unforgettable event for less money and less stress than planning a 300-person hometown wedding. The guests get a legitimate vacation with a built-in reason to finally use their paid time off. And the resort gets a guaranteed multi-day revenue event that a normal individual booking could never generate on its own. Nobody's really getting scammed. Everybody's just paying for a different version of the same day, wrapped in a completely different psychological package. And that, at the end of the day, is the real economics of a destination wedding. It's not really about the ceremony at all. It's about turning one emotional decision into a week-long revenue engine that quietly moves tens of thousands of dollars between a couple, their entire social circle, and a resort that figured out how to make everyone feel like they're getting a deal, while collecting more total money than almost any other type of wedding on Earth.